I'm going to try this fresh. This is another one that we're doing. I have a few different techniques I'm going to try and use. I will say that I blatantly stole from Wandering DP. If you haven't seen his page, I'll put a link in there. It's amazing. He does a really good work, and his is about cinematography techniques for commercial work. Obviously, this is more documentary style, so I have a different style of work that I do, and but I like the way that he uses these techniques to kind of share, and that's what I'm going to try and do as well. Hopefully, it'll be a good learning tool for you. And if something doesn't make sense, or you think something's annoying or not working out, let me know. Anyway, excuse me, without further ado, I want to start out and talk about this project that I worked on a couple of years ago. It's called Born in Denver. It's a documentary about the cryptocurrency world. And we filmed actually in Pecos, Texas, because they're building some crypto mining facilities there, and the city is kind of getting itself involved in it, and that's kind of what the story's about. The cool thing is we recently, it was sent to the Culver City Film Festival in Culver City, California, and it won for Best Cinematography. So I'm really proud of that. Really excited to have that recognition. And anyway, I just want to share with this one. It's a big documentary where we worked on it for about 10 days, and I want to share the things that we did as far as interviews. And I just want to kind of show you how we do interviews for a documentary, especially with a small crew, and just let you know kind of the different techniques. So I've got several samples of different interviews that we did throughout the documentary, and I'm going to just kind of explain those. So here we go. Okay, so first I'm just going to talk about the equipment that we used and also the crew. I should have written that out, but I didn't. So we use the area mirror, which you can see here, and that's this lovely guy right here. And we shot it in 3.2K. We shot 23:9:8. We shot it in log profile, and then we also use a Sony A7S III, and we shot that with UHD. On the Sony, we used S-Gamut 3 Cine, and the lenses that we use, you can see here, this is a Zeiss 21-100 lightweight zoom, which is always a joke because if you know Zeiss and any kind of German engineering, it weighs a ton, and this one definitely it was a heavy lens, but it's a very good lens. Also used Zeiss Milvus Classic and Classic Cinemounted lenses. On the Sony, we use just a Sony 16-35 and 24-105 lenses. As far as crew, we were pretty minimal. It was me. I worked as the DP and the camera operator. We had an AC/grip. We had a PA, and then we had an audio person that was, his name was Brian Albritton. He's a great audio guy here in Texas. And anyway, that was the crew. So very minimal crew. Also meant that we didn't have a whole lot of time to do things. But I'm going to share the trailer with you, and I'm just going to play that out. So here's the trailer. I want you to take a look at it, enjoy it, and we'll come back after that.
This is the best kept secret in West Texas.
If you look at Pecos, we are in the middle of what is considered West Texas.
This is the capital of West Texas.
How do we cryptoify it, like say Texas?
You gotta change with the times, so you gotta do what you have to do.
I feel like we're like part of the story of the evolution of Pecos, from cattle town to energy boom to now internet.
We compete with Saudi Arabia and all the main people who produce oil.
The oil and gas is here, and for how long, who knows?
We can just dream, but we can make dreams come true.
So why not Pecos have the big dream?
Saddle a horse up and go get them.
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
All right, so again, you just saw the trailer. I'm just playing it back here a little bit, just without the sound. You kind of just see the variety of things that we did. I'll talk about these kind of shots as well, all the B-roll that we did while we were out there. And then, we spent 10 days doing this project, and you can see there's quite a variety of people, quite a variety of scenarios. The stuff that was actually shot in Denver was shot by a different camera person that was done before. I was brought in after the fact. They wanted to continue with the story a little bit in a different way, and so they brought me in to finish out the project. And again, we spent 10 days working on this, but it was enough to become the DP for the entire project. So anyway, I'm going to just kind of stop it here, and I'm going to move over into the next section. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this right here first. And what I want to do is, this is actually probably one of my favorite scenes that we did. And I can just kind of play it. I'll just take off the audio again. And you know, just kind of a nice setting that I really enjoyed. And I'll show you some of the stills first, so we can kind of, oh, still figuring all this stuff out. We're going to move these in here. We're going to zoom in to this one here and go from there. So anyway, so what you can see is we have some natural lighting coming in from over here, and then we had a bounce that's on this side, and you'll see that in another image. And then you can also already see over here, this is the key light that we used. We used this might have been I think this is a 200X that we used with a big softbox on there. And then, you know, we just kind of shot down the line. And what you'll notice is that we try to keep it, we didn't want to shoot too shallow with this, and this is shot, looks like the 35 or 50 Zeiss Milvis right there. This is our director, Breckenhager, right over here. And if we go into here, you can see that we have, again, the key over here, fill right here, but it's not very shallow in the background. And it was mainly because we just had such a nice setting here. We've got all this nice tack and everything like that. Out of this whole space that we went to film in, this was in a museum in Pecos, Texas. And this was just, to me, the most obvious place to film. It's just really, really nice. Had this nice light coming in from the windows. It wasn't too harsh on them. I was able to get a nice kind of, you know, contrast ratio. Right here, you can kind of see just, you know, nice and light here, a little bit darker here. And then using the bounce that came in, that kind of gives us a little bit of lift right here, which is what we really wanted. You can kind of see in the shadow areas how dark it could have been if we didn't have any kind of bounce. And then, you know, just like right down here as well. So a good amount of contrast, and then again, not too shallow right back here. I wanted to keep that kind of where there's a good amount of depth. And I think that happens a lot of times. We get so excited about shallow depth of field that we kind of lose sight of the fact that we want to show the environment. Every time that we filmed this, when we filmed this documentary, the director was really wanting to show people in their space, right? So it kind of defined who they were and what they did. And so that again is the importance of having this entire location like that, so you can really see this guy's environment and where he is. So but if you look some more at the stills, you can see there's the lighting there, and you can see also there's not a whole lot of space. Let me zoom in on this one here, right here. You can kind of see right here is this is the frame of the space right here. It just runs right along this area. So you can see how tight it was to work. And there's the reflector that we had right there. So we just hung the reflector on that side just to give a little bit of fill right over here. Just want to make sure that that worked out. And that's kind of how we got this shot done. Again, this was probably one of my favorite shots. I really enjoyed filming in here. And I think what I'm going to do is I want to just show you, you know, when I show you the next section, you can kind of see, here's another one right here that I liked. And this was a nice lady, and this is in an antique shop that she had. And you can kind of see, you You can see here in the antique shop, it was a nice location. I like to shoot out into the windows if I possibly can. You know, sometimes you want to have some kind of diffusion on the windows. We didn't really have that. There was an overhang, and excuse me, I can show you that again in some of the imagery. Where did this guy moved? All right, so going across, you can see in this image right here. So we have this overhang that's right here, and then the light coming in, and you can see even in this image how dark it was. We started pretty early in the morning, and I knew that the light was going to be coming in. I knew there's going to be a lot of sunshine. So you can kind of see behind my big frame there, there's a 600X from Aperture that we placed out there, and we wanted to keep that shining in throughout the morning. And I just put it on a softbox just so it wouldn't be a super harsh light. We actually ended up taking the softbox off during part of the shoot because we were starting to, it was losing against the sunlight coming in. And I just wanted to keep a kind of a consistent punch as much as possible. So going back to the shot, let's frame this. Let's go like there. So again, what you can see here is we have this nice light right here coming in. We had the 200X once again from Amaran, and then we had a little bit of a fill on this side, and then you can see I've got some textured elements like right here. There's a little bit of piece of glass here. You can see all this glass back here and all these little items. And this texture right here, there's so much to work with in the space. So it was just a really, really nice place to work. You can also see, this chair right here. What I look for when I try and do interviews is I want to make sure that the chair back isn't too high. I want to make sure that it's, kind of not taking up too much space. I don't like high back chairs. I don't like big armrests and things like that. And you definitely don't want wheels on there. You want the person to be sitting kind of still. So those are all elements that I try and think of when I'm filming. You can also see that we kind of shot kind of into the corner a little bit over there. And that was also just to make sure that right there, corner. It just kind of shows what we're, it gives you more depth in the overall image, and it's not too flat. Plus, it also helps with reflections, because you can get a lot of reflections from your own lighting if you're shooting straight on into the glass. And this was all shot with the Amira. All the interviews were shot with the Amira, and this was shot on the, I believe it was the 21-100 lightweight zoom. Let's go back. Let's see. I can see, here, this shot right here, this, so you can kind of see here's what we have as far as our setup. So it's kind of funny seeing it from this angle. It looks like I'm kind of blocked in right here, but it's actually not. The lens is, shooting right through to her right there. And obviously you can see the shot right there. This is the Amaran 200X shining on her with a big softbox. And then, the backlighting was going to be taken care of through the glass here anyway. And we did this interview. It took about an hour or so. So the light, was coming up. By the time we got started with the interview, we already had enough ambient light. And luckily, with that overhang back in the back, we were fortunate to not have to worry about direct sunlight coming in and streaming through. So anyway, so those are probably my two favorite shots of the project that we worked on. Although I did like this one as well. This is an outdoor shot. Again, you can kind of see if you're just looking at just these three, how they're relatively wide shots. So it really kind of gives you a sense of context of the space that they're in and what they're doing, where they are. And then this one, gentleman was he's a veteran. And the city of Pecos had just built this kind of veterans park, which is really cool. I really like the airplane in the background. So you can see that guy right there. And then we have the water tower here So clearly showing a sense of space. And this was shot, let's see, this was shot with the 15 millimeter Zeiss Classic. And you can kind of see how we took care of the our lighting situation here. So this is our PA over here. He's got a bounce, board down over here. Then we have this overhead right here, which is just a simple scrim jim, and that's just kind of blocking the light so that he's not getting too harsh of a light on his head. And then we have this flag here, which is probably more for me to make sure that I can see through the camera lens and the monitor. Hey, look, I made a heart. And then our audio was on the, here's Brian taking care of the audio. So you can kind of see kind of a tight setup, but effective. So it doesn't always have to be super complicated to make something look nice and look effective. The other thing that you'll notice is if you look at the shadows, you'll see that the shadows down here are coming this direction. So the sun is obviously up here coming down. And I like to have some sun behind me as much as possible because you get a nice backlight, you get a nice little rim light right on the person. And also, you're trying to have a little bit of shadow here in the foreground. I didn't want it too bright. You can see the edge right here. This is something that was creeping in all the time, so we constantly had to move the scrim jim as we were doing the interview. Those are, again, things that that just kind of happen that you have to watch out for. But anyway, let's see if there was anything else in this one. Just kind of a wider shot. Again, you can kind of see here. This is our PA with the bounce, just a simple bounce. This is just beadboard. You got one side that's got silver, the other side is white. For this one, the white was enough. Silver obviously is going to have a much more of an impact on the bounce, and I want it to be kind of soft. Plus, his skin is kind of light, and he had a white beard. So those are two elements there that you don't want to blow those out in any way. You want to have some kind of a contrast in the face. So again, if you look at the face, it's relatively evenly lit, but it's also you have a little bit of light coming through kind of right here on the side, a little bit there. It's a little bit more dark in the middle, so there's a little bit of texture. I mean, I could have probably put a little bit of negative fill on one side or the other to really make it stand out, but that's the thing with documentaries is you don't always have a whole lot of time. We often had 2 or 3 interviews that we had to do in a day at very different locations. This one I'll go through quickly. This was a couple that we filmed again with the Amira on a 21-100 zoom lens, and I'm not a huge fan of shooting with 2 people in one shot. It's kind of difficult to do because you're going to have a lot more of a lighting thing to deal with. You can see that we have the backlight here. There was a window right over here, and then we would have just the 200x again over here. I really like using those lights. The main thing I like about those lights is that it's real nice to dial stuff in. But I want to show you an example here. Let's see these chairs. See, look how high this back is, and it's like right on her, right? And the same with him. He's obviously much taller, but there's still this chair is just kind of crawling in. We didn't have any other furniture to use in the space, so this is kind of what we were stuck with. But I just, I think it's good to note how much these chairs take up space. And we had the other option we had was a couch, and I think a couch is even worse because people tend to sink into couches, and the couch back can be kind of high. So there's a lot of issues there that you'd have to deal with. Moving on, I want to just kind of show, and I've got a lot, and I don't want to go all day with this stuff, but I do want to show just kind of some situations that that we had to deal with. This was kind of unexpected, and I would kind of call this more of a roving interview. This gentleman was walking around showing us his cars, and you can see up here, there's in this shot, this photo here, this is me right here. I have on an Easyrig, and I've got this Zeiss lens. Let's see what what lens am I using there? If I can see it from there. Sure. Probably a 21 or a 35, perhaps even. Might be my 35. I like that lens a lot. It's a nice clean lens. And anyway, so this is one of those situations where we didn't have a whole lot of options as far as lighting. And so what we did was I think we may have had a roving light, but we used the natural light here, which, or not natural, but the light, the found light in the space, which were these wonderful fluorescents. You know, we don't like fluorescence a whole lot, but not always something you can do something about. And then this one was another interview. Again, we were at this gentleman's office. There was not a lot of space in the office and not a lot of attractive space in the office, I guess I'll say. But what we were trying to do is we're trying to show who he was, and then even in the small space, some elements of things that are storytellers for him, which kind of explains who he is. So Texas Tech logo with a football thing. He's a big Texas Tech fan and booster. There's some other images here. There's an award that you can see right here that he's won. And it doesn't really matter, showing necessarily what they are. And obviously you can do some B-roll and cut to these kind of shots if you want to. But the thing that we had issue with was, again, you're shooting into the corner, and that gives you a little bit more depth. But the problem, of course, is you have tan wall. And this gentleman, his skin tone is actually pretty close to the wall as well. And then he's got this white shirt, and luckily he had this nice bright blue jacket on. But in the end, not my total favorite shot. You can see over here in this kind of setup shot. So you can see I've got the 21 to 100 lens going right there. Brian's setting up with the marker, and then here's the Amaran 200X again. Not a lot of room for it. And then you can see here on the side light, you got a little bit of fill right there on his face, and that was actually coming from, there's a window right over here. So there's a window, and we use that just to give a little bit of lighting right into there. There's really kind of the only angle that we had to shoot in, and you can see how little space we have. We're just a few feet away from him here. Got the director, he's kind of squatting in the corner. I was back in the other corner of the room, and that was the entire room. So there's very little space to work in. And sometimes that's just, the situation that you're stuck with. When you watch a commercial, you watch a movie, you're at least assuming that they have a lot more space to work with, a lot more time, and a lot more ability to create the environment that they're filming in. Documentary, you don't really have that kind of fortune. And that's kind of, again, showing an example of something that I wasn't super thrilled with the way that the place looked, because what we were doing is we were filming here. You can see, let me move this over. We were filming in a hotel room, and this kind of just shows the space. I try to shoot in the corners whenever I can, but I can't always do that. You see here, this is I'm guessing this might be my 35mm lens to keep it kind of wide. And you've got right here you have the Amaran 200X with a softbox again. Here's our director. And then, we shot into these windows, but there wasn't much to look outside, but it did have these shears, and the shears are kind of nice to kind of soften it up. So in the end, what it does is it creates, a relatively nice, that's fine. Relatively nice environment that you can, I'm figuring this out, guys. There we go. You can see it's kind of a nice soft kind of look. So again, looking for contrasts as far as lighting contrasts. So you have a nice Nice soft light coming onto his face here. You got a little bit more shading on this side. I didn't really put much bounce on this side this time. You can see a little bit of stuff coming even from here. And this one we use the aperture, those little smart bulb looking things, which are really handy for practicals because you can obviously control the color temperature and the lighting intensity. And then here I just wanted this to kind of fall off. There's not a whole lot of interest in our story. And this is one of those situations where he actually owns this hotel. It's kind of funny, but it wasn't really part of the story, and it didn't really define it. We just needed a space to interview him, and this is where we worked. But we did have to work with him in an airplane, which was another interesting situation. So an interview in an aircraft in the air, and you can kind of see this is the shot. And this shot was actually done by our director, Brecken, and that was because the airplane first was just too small to carry the entire crew. There just would not have been any room for us to film. And if I were in the airplane, I would have been having to sit in the back probably and just shooting, the back of his head. So we set up the cameras, and what we did was you have to forgive my guy Chris. Chris was giving a fun look there. But we mounted the camera into the kind of the front dash of the airplane here. And this is the A7S III, and we have a 16-35 lens on there. And it was shooting straight back right there. And then we added a light. There was a light that we put in over here. So the initial idea was that we were going to have, not Chris, but we were going to have Brecken and then the pilot. This is a little bit of a better shot right there. And they were going to be working together. And then you can see us setting up right here. And there is actually somebody's helping with the lighting right there, just so we can kind of see, what we're doing. But we were getting it finished out. We had audio back in here, and we just had the audio equipment. We didn't have our audio guy. Brian wasn't there, but he did patch in so that we would have, direct audio for the conversation. Was it the greatest? It's, if you've ever heard people talking in an airplane, it's, it's never going to sound like a studio for obvious reasons. But you can see that the lighting that we used helped a little bit, gave us a nice light on here. We've got a nice sky in the background. You can see the lights in the city, and this was done, really early in the morning and just kind of at twilight in the morning. And Brecken just kind of took the camera off the mount that we had and just went handheld instead. And I think that he really liked this shot better. And, I don't blame him. I think that is a nice shot. And I think it looked good, especially for what we had at the time. So moving on. This I'm just going to show kind of two examples. And I'm almost out of this one. Just real quick, just showing examples again of, where we were using hotel room and just how I'm just not a fan. Again, now we have two people talking to each other, trying to have a conversation. When you're so limited in your time, I like to do cross-lighting. I like to shoot, I'd rather shoot from the back and shoot here and shoot here, so that you have more shade on this side and more shade on this side. So more of a lighting contrast. And we just didn't have that ability in this situation. This, you can kind of see this is the room that we were in. This was set up for single, but we did singles and the doubles, as you can see over here. We did them both the same way. You've got it double mic'd from Brian, so he just did two booms up here. And that was kind of the situation. Some of these interviews were a little bit quicker, and we had to knock several of them out at once. So we used just a hotel room and just got these things done. At least we had a decent amount of space in the hotel room. But in the end, not my favorite. And then this one is probably my least favorite kind of setup that we had. And these were for the people that worked in the city and the city council. So again, if you're looking at this shot, this is probably not the most attractive shot that you've ever seen. And that's the unfortunate thing sometimes with documentary, is that you're not always going to get amazing, beautiful shots every single time. Sometimes you're just kind of stuck with with what you're given. Now, I will say most government offices aren't that attractive anyway, so maybe it's not not the worst thing. I mean, do you want him in a field of flowers? Yes, you always do want him in a field of flowers. But again, I'll show you up here in a second kind of how we framed it. This was shot again with the Arri 21-100. I did try and add a little bit of texture right here with this chair. This is some kind of that folding concertina kind of, door. But again, you got this nasty wall here, you got this wood that's going through. And the entire room was pretty much the same. There wasn't really an angle that said, oh yeah, this is going to be so much better. You can kind of see here, this kind of shows we did the same setup for several people. And you can kind of see there are some windows and things like that, but they're just like these curtains. The color was just so drab. And then we had a door to contend with over here. So this was this is the decision to go with. And you can see here we have a little backlight right here. So we have a hair light that comes down right there, really nice. We have this aperture Amaran 200 that's just shining into the wall, just to give a little bit of lift. And then we have the big softbox on the Amaran 200X. That's our key light. Again, I'm using a reflector for fill. I'm using the silver side. Gives me a little bit more to work with. And then moving on over here, the same kind of situation. You can kind of see it more of a straight on shot. The one thing we did have, there were two choices of chairs. We had rolling chairs like this one, or we had these kind of old-fashioned desk chairs. Again, the advantage of the old-fashioned desk chair is it's got a low back. It does have armrests, but they're kind of low as well. It does not have wheels, where these have wheels, and you don't want that. You don't want to be having an interviewee rolling around. Here's another one with wheels. Wheels on a chair in an interview are usually a bad thing to do, because the person is going to get nervous. They're going to start twitching, rolling around. Even a swivel chair, that's another thing. You don't want any of that. You want a chair that's solid and still, so the person is going to move a lot less than what they might normally do. They're still going to probably tap their feet or something else, just nervous tics that people have. Anyway, and I'm actually mistaken as far as the lens. You can see here the lens is that is the 35 mil again. So that's what we used on that. And then going back down to this shot, you can just kind of see the end result. Not the greatest thing in the world. This one, I'm going to just kind of skip by it. The only thing that stands out on it, and I'll go ahead and play it. Two different angles. Two different angles because I was on an Easyrig. So this was an interview I didn't even know that we were going to do. So I wasn't fully prepared to do it. And not so much that I wasn't prepared, just we didn't have a whole lot of time. You can kind of see our situation here. So here's me on the beautiful Easyrig. I've got the camera going there. I think I have, like I said, I think I've got like a 21 or a 35 on here. And then we've got Brecken directing. Gave him a monitor to look at. That's always helpful. The monitor really helps because it makes the production folks kind of get away from you. This is my monitor sending the feed. I've got my own monitor I can look at. I don't need anyone over my shoulder looking and trying to see what I'm shooting from there. If you give someone a monitor, they can step away. They can be somewhere else, and they're not in your space, and you can do the job that you need to. And then yeah, again, one of those situations, I mean, look at the space overall. There's a lot of texture, but, it's this kind of, concrete wall, which is, not the prettiest thing in the world. I did like his red jumpsuit, though, and I loved his little hat. So the guy was kind of a cool guy. Anyway, and then the end, just another kind of, unusual situation for an interview, and that is in a moving vehicle. So this actually is our PA, but he also has worked as a truck driver. And so we were in an 18-wheeler, and I'm going to take the sound off this time. There we go. And I will play it from the head. There we go. You can see once again, shooting into the corner, sort of. But also just trying to have some interest. We've just got this light going. It's a little bit crazy, this light, and I don't know, in post, we might have been able to bring it down just a hair, but, it was just for one turn. But what I am looking for, though, is I am looking to have, in a situation like this, I'm looking for where can I put the light. Before I go any further, this was the A7S III with a 16-35 lens. The Amira, just for a situation like this, was felt too big, and it was just a lot easier to work with a small camera. So clearly the sunlight is right there, but it's shining right on him. You get this nice rim light on him right there. And this is just the ambient light just coming through that's giving us a little bit of fill. You don't always need to have a fill. Sometimes it just kind of naturally happens because of the space that you're in. Obviously, you've got glass here, you've got glass here. You're going to have glass behind on this side as well. So it's all right there. And then as far as the crew, we did have, since we had a cab in the back of the, all right, I'll just move it in like this, I guess. No, I'm not. I'm gonna. There, now we got it. You can see, so here's me sitting right here, getting ready to go. This is our PA, our driver for the scene, Brecken, with his monitor again in the back, and then the audio kit because Brian is sitting right over here. And this is just kind of how we shot this. So again, kind of a simple setup, nothing too elaborate. And just a different kind of look. And we did an entire sequence with him that I'll show you in another video. So anyway, those were the setups that we had for that that project. So I hope you got something out of this. Just let me know in the comments if you want me to talk a little bit more about specific things. I really was trying to talk a little bit more about the camera equipment that we used, the techniques that we use, and also the lighting and why we lit it, the different ways that we did. So you got to remember, in a documentary, you're not always going to have the option of getting everything that you want as you want it. You also don't always know what you're walking into. Most of these situations, I hadn't seen any of these locations until the moment that we got there. Don't have a whole lot of time to do scouting in these kind of places. So you kind of have to work with what you have. And to me, as you saw, most of the lighting was pretty simple. You use a key light with a big soft box on there. Had some backlighting, and that was kind of it. And doing elaborate lighting setups for situations like this in a documentary, especially, is just kind of counterintuitive because you don't always have a lot of time. You're always fighting time, and you have a very small crew. If you're working on a really big documentary with a really big crew, and maybe you're interviewing a celebrity, and you've got a crew of 10 people to work on something, and you've got 4 hours to set up for the interview, totally different story. But when you're working on a documentary like this, you just don't have those kind of luxuries, and that's where you have to just try and be as creative as you possibly can and work as fast as you can. Even on the Amira, as you saw, I was using a zoom lens, because that zoom lens, you can just, you can go in, you can go out, you can get a bunch of different framings, get all that stuff knocked out really, really quickly, as opposed to using primes all the time. So anyway, hope that you like that stuff, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.